Frustrated by the idea of just writing anything yourself? Or grammar rules are not for you and you just become random? Or are you just the type to abandon writing anything properly and join the Writing is Hard club? Well, we have an announcement for you. We've got you. We'll guide you and make you rock writing. So listen up for 5 important rules that will enrich your writing. Writing any scientific report is tricky. As much as it depends on scientific facts, it also depends on correct grammatical and style writings, so it could be understandable. That's what we're going to tackle today. Rule 1. Meta-discourse. Again, what was it? Meta what? Seems complex and negative, huh? Well, yes, it might be complicated, with its very, very, very different explanations and usage. But fear not, we will simplify it. Though meta-discourse might seem like something we need to avoid while writing our research paper, it is actually not. A simple definition would be that meta-discourse is used in writing to describe a word or a phrase that comments on what is in the sentence, usually as an introductory adverbial clause, like using to sum up, certainly, note that, first, or perhaps. Each of these phrases tells something about the writer and their way of conveying the text. So, meta-discourse is more than just phrases used. It actually embodies the idea that writing and speaking are more than just the communication of ideas and presentation of ideational meaning. When we use meta-discourse, we are structuring a three-way relationship between the text, the reader, and the writer. But keep in mind, meta-discourse is neutral because according to your context and usage, it might lift the essence of your paper or make your writing of bad quality. It all depends on your type of paper. Let's take a look at this example from a paper about artificial tongue-placed tactile biofeedback, where the usage of note that was like a marker for the readers. The writer used it to give directions for the readers. Next, another example from a paper about voice disability applications. The writer used this meta-discourse phrase in an attempt to engage with the readers. But this might violate the norms of academic writing by unnecessarily using first person. It is better to avoid first person or affective language in academic writing. So this is a bad example. Here is another example from the same paper. Academic writing is based on evidence, facts, experience, etc. So the word believe seems like a somewhat flimsy way of persuading someone. If we have evidence or experience to support our position, then isn't it more than a belief? Instead of we believe, it is better to say we are confident, certain, firm, or we anticipate, to show the confidence of the writers to the readers. Rule 2. Replace a phrase with a word. Don't you get bored with long unnecessary phrases? Especially when they could be replaced by a simple word that gives the same meaning? Well, that's actually the main point of this rule. Using phrases to convey meaning that could be presented in a single word contributes to wordiness, which isn't something applauded in scientific papers. You should learn to spot opportunities to edit the sentence down and convert phrases into single words when possible. Some of the most common phrases that could be replaced are at the present moment, replaced by now. It is clear that, by clearly. In the event that, by if. Due to the fact that, by because. Subsequent to, by before. Due to circumstances that, by because or since. In a careful manner, by carefully. Have an effect on, by affect. In order to, by to. How about we see some examples from research papers? For the first example, taken out of Comparing Visual Reasoning in Humans and AI research paper, although is used in a proper way. A bad example in a paper about machine learning in nanoscale biomedical engineering is using due to the fact that, where because is more suitable to avoid wordiness. Our last example is from a paper about unlocking capacities of viral genomics for the COVID-19 pandemic response, where in order to could have been replaced by just to, giving exactly the same meaning but with fewer words. Rule 3. Delete meaningless words. Whether you are writing a journal, article, a research paper, or any kind of academic work, creating strong and concise sentences is very important in conveying your message and arguments to your audience. Sometimes when we start writing, we do something without even noticing, which is using filler words. First, what is a filler? Fillers are words that add no meaning to a sentence and merely fill the space. Such words slow down the pace of a scene and make reading seem like a chore. So, why do we use them while writing? Well, we often tend to write how we speak, so we end up writing what could have been written in 2 or 3 words into a whole paragraph. Here are some examples of filler words: in order to, really, believe, obviously, that, and then. Now let's take a look at some examples. Here we have an example from a paper titled A Pattern-Driven Approach to Biomedical Ontology Engineering. In this example, we find that the writer used few words, avoided the use of fillers, and was straight to the point. Our second example is from a paper about machine learning in nanoscale biomedical engineering. Here the writer used that, which is known to be one of the filler words that we mentioned earlier. Most of the time it adds no extra info to the sentence, and it can be easily deleted without the sentence losing its meaning. The third and last example is from the same paper. Here there is a consequence of events which made the writer use then twice, in order to avoid this, and could be used instead. Rule 4. Delete double meaning words. Similar to the previous rule, using double meaning words adds unnecessary length to one's writing. It also distracts and annoys readers. Eliminating redundancy is a good way to revise your writing for concision, or the ability to make your point in as few words as needed. Redundancy takes the form of unnecessary words or phrases. Observe the redundancy in the following word pairs: evil villains, dead corpses, added bonus, unexpected surprise, hopeful optimism. In each of these word pairs, the writer doesn't need to use both words to express his or her meaning. It is more effective to eliminate the adjective and let the noun serve on its own. Here are some examples to illustrate this rule. In this example, the writer succeeded in delivering the needed content without the use of any unneeded words. This example is from claim detection in biomedical Twitter posts. The two used words serve the same meaning, so there is no need to use both. The third example is from self-alignment pre-training for biomedical entity representations. Here again we see the writer stating the obvious, as sophisticated doesn't need the word very before it. Rule 5. Limiting use of jargon. Firstly, we have to know the difference between jargon and slang. Slang is the language of daily based use. A group of people could have their own slang word that they understand, but doesn't exist with the meaning they are using in the dictionary. Therefore, it is society dependent. On the other hand, jargon is a form of slang but not as informal. Jargon is the use of terms by colleagues that only they or people of same profession can understand. So police officers have their own jargon, like 1010 dispatch. Now that we know what is jargon, how can we limit its use in a scientific paper so that we can write terms that are easily understood by any reader? Here are some examples on this rule. So this is a bad example on jargon, from a paper on machine learning in nanoscale biomedical engineering, where the word atypical was used, which is a common jargon term in medical fields meaning unusual. Here is another bad example from the same paper on nanoscale BME. The word bioinformatics, an obvious jargon case in which is preferred to be presented with more explanation. We can say the analysis of biological informations instead. Here is a good example to limit jargon use. A paper on lessons learned about searching for precise biomedical scientific information on COVID-19. A table was included explaining jargon terms in a simple manner to be easily understood, and these are some samples from the stated table. To sum up, these grammar rules and many others can enrich the quality and essence of your paper, if they were understood and used properly. Remember, grammar is the pole you grab to get your thoughts up on their feet and walking.